for the
here. Jixing Che right now, 9 points. Another one of our players that could theoretically, with a good enough finish, get over that threshold. Interesting set of items here. He's got, all right, got the Kazakhs too. Got a good amount of brawlers.
Indeed. Yeah, choosing not to slam any
open.
items. We have seen some players slamming Infinity Edge so far in this tournament. Not a slam I like overall with the change to critical damage at some point earlier in the set. It's just not adding a lot of value from a damage perspective. Going up against Esha, who has a relatively weak board and has not slammed any items himself, but it's not weak enough apparently to be able to deal with it. The funny thing about Jixing Che's board is that while he was full win streaking, meanwhile you have Nukumaru, who has slammed an early Rage Blade onto the Zyra, has the 4 Spell Weavers with that early Vel'Koz.
That's fast.
Yeah, that's very fast. A little bit unfortunate. You know, he slams the Rage Blade and is leaning towards playing a Zyra-based composition at this point, and then hits the high roll early Vel'Koz.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be one where you, I mean, you've still got the tier, so I guess you could still do like a Shojin's later for it, but you're going to be a little bit split, right? And the problem with this is that your front line is going to just be a little bit weak here. The Vel'Koz gets a cast off, but barely before it gets cut down by the Olaf from Delicious Milk. And Olaf just, again, playing like a strong tempo board as well as he can, but really wanted a bow, I think, to theoretically finish off that Runan's Hurricane.
Yeah.
See what he can find on this roll down now, though.
Yeah, choosing to actually hyper roll, not something we've seen a lot of recently. Most players have elected to kind of play the slow roll where you stay above 50 gold. I don't expect to see him roll much past 30 in this situation, particularly since he hasn't found any more veins. Very unlucky. He is still rolling one vein away. Okay, so we are online. He's going to be able to, he found the upgraded Knight front line as well, so he's in quite a good position, though, as you mentioned, without the bow for the Runan's Hurricane, it essentially cuts your Vayne DPS in half, so absolutely expecting Shurikane to prioritize bow at all costs on the next carousel.
Yeah, you really need to. I mean, at least with the Vayne 3, you're going to be, winning some rounds now. Maybe not winning a lot. You're going to kind of go win-loss a little bit. But he does get the win over Nukumaru, at least, to start things off.
A bunch of gold on 3-2 and hit like a 2-star 3-cost carry that's going to be able to overwhelm the board with some meaningful amount of tankiness. So we see Delicious Milk going up against Mbappe. These are the 2 win-streaking players in the lobby, though. This is an incredibly impactful fight for the macro dynamic, and Milk is getting rolled over here. It is not close. It is a 5-unit loss for Delicious Milk. Mbappe protecting his 100 HP streak from Nukumaru, whose board is a lot of 1-stars.
Yeah, seriously. That's why at the beginning of that round I was like, oh, this doesn't look the strongest, but the synergies were there, the Sunfire Cape was doing work, the crowd control was there. This Radiant Shop, though,
is a BG situation, and Nukumaru's face says it all. This is a man that has been relatively inflappable. We've seen him have some crazy high rolls. He had a Aphelios 2 on 3-2 and basically just stared blankly into the camera, but this Radiant Shop, though, is giving him some consternation. He's sitting back in his chair. He is staring at it. It doesn't matter how long you stare at it, buddy. Their options are not getting any better, I am sorry to say.
Right. I mean, what do you even go
Sells
with?
Jax. This is the one he was looking for, I assume. Lucian? No, he passes the Lucian, Toa. What are we looking to play here?
That's a good question. I mean, he saw the Gwen, and he does have the potential to make a blue buff, but he doesn't really have other items to support that, right? So, I mean, gonna pass that by as well. Some people like to re-roll Riven, but that's not gonna happen now with all the gold being taken out. So I think that's just kind of a feels bad for Jixing Che as he enters this with 0 gold and not really any stronger of a board than he began with.
I don't think this is a feels bad. I think this is a played bad situation, Doa. He is clearly all in purely on the Aphelios line, right? We see him holding he's holding the Nightbringer the units, he's holding the Revenant units, and he's saying, I only want to play Aphelios from the spot, but his items are generically powerful AD items. A Radiant Titans, a Hand of Justice, and a Deathblade on a Lucian would be outstanding. A Radiant Titans, a Deathblade, and a Ginsu's Rage Blade on a Draven would be okay. But if no one really caps out their board, Vayne is capable of playing for top 1, particularly if you get a secondary carry online, like, a 3-star Hecarim or a Viego 2, for example.
Right. I was just looking at the shop here for Nukumaru. Some interesting choices there. Revenant would build a stronger front line, but arguably, Renewer might do the same thing. If you go for something like a little bit of a Renew action there too, he's going to swap out the Lux for a Heimerdinger now. He will get a fairly quick cast, and he's only 1 Renewer away from 4 Renewer with this too, and there's a Soraka. So we'll see if he maybe decides to switch into a little bit of 4 Renewer tech to capitalize on that. Have to go back and check later. Meanwhile, Jixing Che is banking on the Cavalier Teemo and a little bit of Aphelios
Oh,
action.
the Viego is in the right place once again. It feels like every single time we go swap to a fight, we are looking at Chi2 thoroughly outpositioning someone. Such good understanding of his board composition. Yeah, not like this indeed. Zixingcha all-ins on that 4-1 roll down for Aphelios. Finds one copy of Aphelios, but not 2-star, and bottoms out this lobby in 8th place. Moving over to Nukamaro, who has Vel'Koz against the world. And the world wins. Nukamaro out in 7th place. A tough game for him.
Claw, and so now Lucian's going to be just that much safer. I like the Diana 2 hit. Always good if you can position that well to get the disruption that she brings. But how do you turn this into a top 4? He still only has 4 HP right now.
His board strength is perfectly fine. He has everything upgraded except for the Pike. He has solid items onto the Lucian, solid items onto the Galio. It's all coming down to positioning, and he's just barely on the wrong side here, Doa. From this spot, he's going to ult across to the Senna instead of to the enemy Lucian. Meanwhile, the enemy Lucian is going to ult across to his Lucian, although his Lucian is a genius and dodges out. This is the fun of the Lucian matchup. When and how are we dashing? Now the Lucians are wailing away on each other, and Juan Mi's Lucian reigns supreme. Mbappe is going to take a loss here and go out in 6th place.
Yeah, it was close. Like you said, I think it really did come down to the position there. The Lucian first not getting what could have potentially been the first shot on Juanmi's on the other side. So Mbappe out in 6th. That's going to make sure that he's going to have a hard time getting past that threshold. But let's check out Milk's board. And he has got an Akshan too. So pretty decent damage. Got the Banshees to keep everything fairly safe. What do you think?
I think this board is excellent. He has a bunch of upgraded units. The only things on his board that are not upgraded are his Volibear and Teemo, both of which do an enormous amount of work on 1-star. We see him repositioning, getting the Shroud landed perfectly onto Escha's board. This is a very interesting matchup, as we saw last time. The problem with that Escha runs into in this matchup is there's so much backline access between the Aphelios cast that hit the entire board. This Akshan is going to circle around and get on, and the Diana. It's just so hard for Escha to be able to deal with Milk's board. It's a very, very easy fight win for Delicious Milk, but that's okay. The name of the game for Escha was not 8th. He has already secured it. Delicious Milk is getting closer and closer to a top 4.
Or Escha don't win in the next game, they're going to have a lot of competition, I'm guessing, as far as players that could potentially just win the world championship right there. So, you know, this game, you're trying to get all the points you can, you know, to just make it easier for you to cross the threshold if you're not one of those 2 players that already have. But it's really going to be next game where, you know, the sweat is going to start to kind of like roll down the faces of these players as they're going to consider that the tournament might be over in game 4.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's find out. The Shroud is certainly in a rough place for Juanmi here. Hits basically all of his most important stuff. That Lucian's going to take a lot longer to cast here. Stun from the Senna on the other side comes through.
Akshan.
But oh no, Akshan's in the back. He swings away, but he takes out everybody on his way through, more or less. And even Viego helping out a little bit there too. And that is going to send Juanmi to the Shadow Realm. Delicious Milk takes at least a second. And that is pretty huge.
5 points, Delicious Milk at 6 points heading into this lobby. So a lot of catching up to do for them. Some desperately needed points as we take a look at them trying to cap out the boards. Shurikane is able to get a Viego 2 here, trying to figure out what unit he wants to sell in order to make it happen. It looks like he's going to do a full transition on this board, get the Jax in as well, teching up in the Ironclad Stoa, which is really smart adaptation, considering that he's going up against an basically entire attack damage composition from Delicious Milk in the Aphelios and the Akshan. Now for the last second positioning, swapping. The Viego stays in the middle. Is the Shroud going to land? The Shroud does land. Not that impactful under the circumstances because Vayne does not have mana. Meanwhile, the Viego is on the back. There are 2 Banshee's Claws on that back line, so this Viego is trying to cast. The second one is picking up the Aphelios, but the Akshan is done away with Shurikane's entire board. Milk's dual carry composition wins supreme in the first fight.
Man, that Diana ultimate from Milk just was huge. It did so much damage, and it also just totally disrupted everything. And, you know, anyone who thought Delicious Milk, you know, could only be a one-trick is, you know, has been rudely awakened now. And as he's proved once again that he can play pretty much any build out there right now. And so this is kind of like Delicious Milk, I feel like, showing his final form, where it's like, yeah, I use Kled to get here. That's fine. I can do that if I need to. If I get on a silver platter, I'll play it again. But he can pretty much bring anything he wants to at you in a given game. And here it is, Shurikane, 18 HP. Did he manage to find the positioning here to possibly eat another Viego right on the Vayne?
It's already over
again. It's a double agent, and the Vayne swap sides. Delicious Milk gonna win this one. Huge, and he's gonna do enough damage to win it all. Delicious Milk takes game 3.